A double standard, a rule or principle which is unfairly applied in different ways to different people or groups. This is a term that can definitely be thrown around in the Dragon Ball Legends community, and it's going to be important for this video, so hold on to it. But talking about Lineage of Evil, why does everybody hate this tag so much? Now obviously, not everybody hates this tag. There are some people that are thriving with the Lineage of Evil uprise. But I also should mention very evidently, I am not a fan of Lineage of Evil, but I am happy they're getting their buffs for two reasons. One, I always support diversity in Dragon Ball Legends. I think the release of more different units is always a good thing, as it adds more variety in Dragon Ball Legends when going into PvP, especially if all the teams available are teams that can also be used in the highest ranks. But two, it allows me to save my Chrono Crystals. Everybody in Dragon Ball Legends has their preferences of what they like more than others, so no matter what you like, there will be periods where there's things you like less or don't like, therefore allowing you to save Chrono Crystals for the things you want. Going along with that, nobody should be shamed or jumped just because they have a preference. Me of all people knows how that feels. In the same way I'm allowed to have my opinion, you're allowed to have your opinion. A lot of you guys have this notion I'm a fusion glazer, but I keep things very unbiased, especially when it comes to the critique of something. But there's a difference between critiquing something and expressing your opinion. For example, Lineage of Evil getting buffs is good for the game. That's a subjective statement where some people will agree and some people will disagree. But then you could be a lot more objective. For example, Ultra Final Form Frieza's Death Beam is very toxic. If you think otherwise, I think for a lot of people that will raise concerns, but I guess we could still say it's subjective. But definitely for the health of the game, it's more so on the spectrum of not being good. And throw along with that, a lot of super hype characters, or rather generally accepted as super hype, would fall in the bracket of being toxic for many reasons which we won't get into just yet. So referring to double standards, I think it's very unfair that there's been a lot of critiques and a lot of jumping of L.o.E fans and enjoyers because they like L.o.E. They should be allowed to enjoy just like everybody else who enjoys at every other part of the year. So let me use myself as an example, because I don't believe in jumping people just because they like something I don't like. But in that same sentence, I can express what I don't like, and that should be accepted too. In the 6th anniversary, we got 3 Fusion Warriors, not 1, not 2, 3 Fusion Warriors, and that's after 5 years of fusions every single year. Getting 1 is already overwhelming because they're most likely going to be the best in the game, plus the rinse and repeat tax. But we get another one and another one in the 6th anniversary. That's super stacked and more than we've ever had before in one short period. But if we take this period now, we get even 2 Lineage of Evil units. Let's take Ultra Frieza, and if we're talking premium, it's only really Legends Limited Metal Cooler. There are a lot of people ready to throw a fit and heavily targeting people that are enjoying L.o.E, saying some harsh things to them. Now ultimately, let's call a spade, Lineage of Evil will never and isn't anywhere near as popular as Fusion Warriors. This isn't a hot take, this is just the objective truth. Fusion Warriors, because it's the main character and Deuterogonist, Goku and Vegeta fusing together, it's always gonna have more value in the Dragon Ball franchise. But that doesn't take away that there is still people that will enjoy these things. So in the same boat that Fusion Warriors are allowed to enjoy their 6th anniversary, for example, Lineage of Evil fans should be able to enjoy this period here, 7th anniversary, the Ultra, and leading out of it into this campaign. If you don't like it, that's okay, and it does make the period boring for you, but you'll have your time to shine in another period. While for now, Lineage of Evil fans can enjoy, and in another period, they will lose their time to shine. I should also add that because Lineage of Evil is not some widely popular tag that gets buffed every other month, them getting 1 campaign isn't ridiculous. And I hope Lineage of Evil fans aren't too biased here, because you guys get buffs at least once a year. Last year you got Ultra Golden Frieza, that guy was a top 1 contender, and the year before that you got Gold Frieza with the dev's literal intervention. First Form Frieza, literally an LF from years back, was in the meta. That's how good L.o.E was performing in the 5th year. So it's not like they don't get super good teams when they do get buffs, but it's more about the quantity of their buffs. They don't get them often, so this campaign shouldn't be too crazy for everybody to accept, to be honest. Now moving on, in regards to how they've gone about buffing Lineage of Evil, I think this is something that needs to be addressed, because I think less people would complain if they went about buffing the team or the tag in a better manner. So let's start with Ultra Final Form Frieza. This unit alone, in the majority case, people will have him as the best in the game, and with him alone you can pretty much overcome everything that exists in Dragon Ball Legends, and there's a lot of things that have already dropped surrounding him. For example, the full power Frieza Zenkai. Let's not forget that he permanently nullifies endurance, which is obviously a big deal. We got Frost, even though he's not good in the slightest. Gold Frieza got a platinum equipment, I guess we can mention them just for sake, and we follow it with the 2 newest units, King Cold the Sparking, and Legends Limited Metal Cooler. Now on the surface, you immediately look at Lineage of Evil and think, hold on, why are people complaining? There's barely any buffs there. But this is not about quantity, it's more about quality. And I think that's why there's a lot of people complaining about Lineage of Evil. Full Power Frieza being the best in the game is already enough to pretty much revive the tag. But with what we've seen of Metal Cooler, bear in mind I'm recording this before he comes out, him having 2 comebacks is outrageous. And that makes the team even more bloated because they were doing good enough already. Now the whole team in its core, you might have noticed I even missed out a bunch of characters because I just feel like they weren't relevant to mention. For example, the free-to-play Cooler, even though he is decent. Revival Frieza, he's not too bad himself. And the third form Frieza, I guess he's okay for a free-to-play. So even with a bunch of flops, the team has taken a lot of space with the releases that we've got within the anniversary period going forward into what we have now. And they're still being able to perform at such an optimal level. Oh yeah, final form Cooler, he's getting a Zenkai. With his Zenkai, he throws Ultra Super Vegito back into the dirt for the 2nd round in a row. Happened once in the 4th anniversary, we're going again now in the 7th. Wild. Well, technically it was after the 4th and technically it's after the 7th, but you get my point. The devs have put out a lot of quantity for this tag, but they also have quality, but it's only in a few releases. Final form Cooler is gonna take out USV most probably, Full Power Frieza runs the whole game, and the extra pieces just fill any gaps, making it hard to break through this team. But the point I'm trying to make here is, because the team already has such a good foundation and build, them going ahead and buffing the tag even more, to a degree, and I can imagine to some people, definitely feels unnecessary, but me personally, I'm not complaining too much. Although I'm not enjoying the game, you gotta let different tags shine, man. Now there's something I want to speak about regarding Lineage of Evil that is low-key not spoken about enough, and this is more so adding to why people hate it. Not my personal opinion, but I can see why a lot of people feel this way. I'm gonna use Fusion Warriors as an example. So you know how we've got them pretty much every single year, and we've got a bunch of Fusion Warriors, right? It's getting boring to a lot of people, but it's the same stuff in most cases, just different animation, but the character for the most part is the same. It's gonna be a Gogeta or Vegito with a different transformation, different attack. But very high key, Lineage of Evil is the same thing, which makes it more ironic for a lot of the Fusion fans that are especially upset, but it's still understandable because it's not your preference. Lineage of Evil has like 4 characters and we only care about 2 of them. In reality, Fusion Warriors has more variety if you include the likes of Gotenks, Omega Shenron, Super 17, Kefla. There's a lot more, but Frieza, Metal Cooler, King Cold, and Shield. I forgot about you, Frost, but we don't care. That is your Lineage of Evil. Beyond that, you only have transformations to pick from. But in reality, when it comes to getting Lineage of Evil units, we're only gonna get a Frieza or a Cooler if it's a premium rarity. We might get a Shield down the line, but I don't think there's anybody, even the L.o.E fans, that are waiting for a Chilled. Add Frost in there, but I know there's a couple Frost enjoyers. But I think it's something that's heavily overlooked. So with the quantity that we've got from Lineage of Evil, here's the roster. Frieza, 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 Go Frieza, Frost, Cooler, 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 King Cold, and I guess a couple more Friezas. And we got all that within 2 months. Even as an L.o.E fan, taking all these slots for buffs, you gotta see how someone from the outside could see that as ridiculous. But hey, I'm just the messenger. It's not my personal message. I want to heavily point out that in this video, I used Fusion Warriors as an example as much as I could intentionally, as I'm trying to do a PR run here. But it's also because it's like the main opposing force, considering we just came out of the anniversary with no Fusion Warriors, which is obviously against the grain. It's not the usual. So as expected, people who like Fusion Warriors are the least happy, where on the other spectrum, the other type of people are the happiest, because there's been a lot of diversity this anniversary, which all in all is actually good. But of course, if they're characters you don't have a preference for or would not normally summon for, then the game is only going to be less enjoyable. And I also wanted to add that most of the points I made in this video can be applied to almost every single tag. If not that, just characters in general. We get Gokus and Vegetas all the time. When it's a Gohan, it's still just Gohan. Whether it's Super Saiyan 2, Beast Gohan, Ultimate Gohan, it's still just Gohan. And that's just Dragon Ball. Whether it's Lineage of Evil, Hybrid Saiyans, Future, Fusion Warriors, Universe Rep, no matter what tag I'm talking about, the points are going to be all the same. So I think a lot of people should just suck it up up from both perspectives. If you're a Lineage of Evil fan, you need to get over it. People are allowed to not like Lineage of Evil. And if you aren't a Lineage of Evil fan, you can complain, but you need to get over the fact that people also like Lineage of Evil. It's gonna go both ways. Ultimately, toxic units are not good. People are not gonna like it, but almost every tag gets a toxic unit, especially if they're trying to make them meta relevant, as I'm sure you'd hate it if your tag went out like Dragon Ball Saga earlier this year. I think that'd be the worst case scenario for any tag in the game. Even if you aren't a Dragon Ball Saga fan, seeing them go out like that is actually unfortunate, because what was the point of dropping those units that you're probably not going to see again for the next 5 years? They just got fumbled for no reason. All you can hope for is a Zenkai or Platinum equipment in the next year at the best, and that's a shame in my opinion. But yeah, I think this video's done a good job of cleaning up my PR just a tiny bit, because I actually despise Lineage of Evil. I still can't believe King Cold made me join his clan with a K. I didn't even get the choice. Not a fan of that, but it's cool though. Blue Beast Gohan on the way. But that's going to be the end of the video. I'm trying my hardest to emphasize that I am just the messenger. Please don't shoot me. I do have a preference of Fusion Warriors, and I don't like Lineage of Evil, but I'm very much okay with Lineage of Evil getting buffs. Dry periods for me like this is very good because I get to save. So I have no issues with Lineage of Evil units enjoying. And unironically, why is Metal Cooler designed in such a fantastic way? They put more creativity into him than all the 7th Annie units, and I respect that honestly. But hopefully you guys did enjoy this video. If you haven't already, make sure to press the subscribe button. We're on this grind to 200,000 subscribers. I appreciate you guys for watching, man. My name's Zakashi, guys, and I'll see you guys in the next one, man.